Well, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is pushing against third-party options in the presidential election. Yesterday, the representative from California criticized the centrist group No Labels for attempting to launch a third-party bid. She called the group, quote, perilous to our democracy, and said pushing a third-party candidate would lead to a Trump win in the 2024 election. So for more on this and other things, Joel Payne is with us here in Studio 57, a rarity. Joel is a chief communications officer for Move On and a CBS News political contributor. Also joining us from Washington is Leslie Sanchez. She's a Republican strategist and a CBS News political analyst. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Good to have you in studio.
Yeah. I think we do have to talk about Israel. We just heard from the Secretary of State, but I'll address this idea of a third-party candidate first. Joel, starting with you, does a third-party candidate or primary challenger create a significant risk for President Biden?
Absolutely. It creates a risk for President Biden. It also, I think, creates a risk for voters for not understanding like the clear choice that's available to them. I know it's alluring to think about third parties and to think about these fantasy politics scenarios, but there really is no path for a third party to win. So the only role they really play is to spoil the election in one direction or another. Full disclosure, I work with Move On, who's very opposed to No Labels, so the viewer should understand that. But I think the reasons why Move On is opposed are very good reasons, so sharing that.
All right.
So, Leslie, what do you think? Are there concerns? Because I've seen some recent numbers that suggest that folks are polling in favor of, for example, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and those are those are people who voted for President Trump in the 2020 election.
What you're seeing there, Vlad and Emery, is that people want other choices than Biden, certainly on the left. If you look at the fact that he's had a precipitous drop just since September among Democrats, about 11 points. And a lot of that is just this wrangling of hands, frustration, trying to find alternatives. On the right, you see continued frustration with Donald Trump. While there is a strong base of Republicans there, they're scratching their heads. I mean, I was reporting earlier in the spring that there were a lot of former Trump supporters who were looking at No Labels and throwing their dollars in that direction. And why is that? They don't feel that they're getting the options that they want. So that contention, while Nancy Pelosi may say that is bad for democracy, I would argue that political partisanship and not having options is bad. But I would also finally agree with Joel. If you're looking just legislatively on the state level, there is not a path for a third party. It's not designed that way within our system when it comes to the state elections. But it is showing that there's opportunity for alternative candidates on the party tickets, and that's really where the fight's going to be.
Joel, I want to ask you about the president and the administration's approach to the conflict in the Middle East. We just heard from the Secretary of State, and the messaging from the administration has been pretty consistent, right? Full-throated support for Israel and Israel's right to defend itself. But we are hearing tweaks to that messaging, and what we heard from the Secretary of State is, yes, Israel needs to defend itself, but the way Israel defends itself also matters. I want to ask you about whether or not the administration's approach to the Middle East, do you think that will have an impact on voters, depending on how long and drawn out this is? I mean, I think that, so the more video, the more things we see, you can't help but to get emotional about some of the civilian tragedy on both sides, the death, the destruction. Is the administration cognizant of the impact, the emotional impact that this is having on voters?
It certainly may have a domestic impact politically, and at least in the short run. In the long run, we'll see. Look, foreign affairs typically is a very hard issue to, measure against an election. I think what's interesting about this is that the administration has a role to play to, of course, assert that Israel has a right to defend itself and to defend Israel from these attacks, but also to make sure that they are honoring the values of American diplomacy and American foreign policy, and particularly valuing the lives of Palestinian civilians who are in harm's way right now. So you have to show support for Israel, which I think broadly there is support among the American electorate. But I also think owning a hard right government stance from a Bibi Netanyahu is problematic for the president as well. And that is the dance, that's the tightrope that they're walking right now.
Yeah, Leslie, it feels as if, at least on the question of Israel and its right to defend itself, there seems to be, for the most part, at least for mainline Republicans, bipartisan support for both Democrats who are mainstream Democrats and Republicans. You have some members of the Democratic Party, for example, the Squad, who has perhaps called more attention to the Palestinian plight. But it does strike me that this is one area where both parties can come together and pass, for example, aid for Israel that's bundled in with aid to Ukraine and aid to Taiwan. But the new House Speaker separated the aid to Israel. Of course, Democrats are going to vote for that because they want to see Israel have the capacity to defend itself. But using this particular issue as a wedge, could that be problematic for Republicans? I watched, for example, during a hearing with Secretary Mayorkas, Homeland Secretary, get into a tiff with Josh Hawley about the border and using Israel as a way to sort of equate what's happening at the southern border to Israel and people that might be coming into the United States. And Mayorkas is a descendant of Holocaust survivors, and you've got Hawley attacking him and not suggesting that he cares enough about Israel because this is something about the southern border. I don't get how that might work.
Vlad, it's hard to unpack, right? But I think there are two critical points here. One, the U.S. stands with Israel, Republicans and Democrats. That's very clear. The second part of that is what we're seeing is this with the new conference, the Republican conference, the new speaker, there is a crucial demand for fiscal responsibility. So culling out and pulling out Israeli support, but tying it to budget cuts and what the Republicans are saying is they want to cut $14 billion, the offsets that the president put in IRS enforcement. You're not going to see a lot of support among voters from a political move to let's keep more IRS agents. There could be an accounting for that, but that's what they're looking for. It's not going to be a blank check. It's not saying that there's not going to be support for the Ukraine and Taiwan, but at what cost? And part of the deal making I expect we're going to hear about later in the week, certainly next week, is those border concessions. If you want to see Ukraine funding, let's talk about limitations on asylum. Let's talk about more dollars in border enforcement dollars. So that is the traditional wrangling that happens, and I do feel that's positive. This is ground that Republicans and Democrats can move on. It may be slow, it may be difficult, but I do feel it's going to be more fiscally responsible and get more people on board.
Joel, under the Trump administration, I'm a political neophyte. I don't know anything about politics. What was the Republican stance when Donald Trump was ballooning the budget?
I think, Vlad, and I'm not a neophyte, and I don't think you are either, but I think they were less concerned about the budget. I think Republicans are willing to spend money across the budget for their priorities. I love my friend Leslie, and I wish she was here in person.
Yeah,
but
Leslie, we miss you.
I disagree. I disagree with her point about the IRS agents because the argument that Democrats are making is that's making it easier for the wealthy and the well-heeled to get away with tax breaks and to take advantage of the tax code. So that is a controversial position for Speaker Johnson to use as a wedge here on the Israel aid bill.
Leslie, we'd love to have you in studio. We miss you. We used to do it regularly. We hope to see you soon.
I'm excited. See you soon.
Thanks, Leslie. Thank you, Joel. Appreciate you.